Ready.
Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and call to order a meeting of the City of Laredo Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1, September 10th, 2019 at 5:30. And let's begin with roll call. So
Do we have?
I will go ahead and read the roll call. Okay, let's go to begin. James Kirby Snideman. Carol Alexander.
Here.
Patty Goldberg. Ben Puig.
Here.
Arturo Garcia. Jose Castillo.
Here.
And Henry Sauvignon present. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 members of the 7 present. That makes quorum. Next item on the agenda after roll call is a review of the minutes from the prior meeting. This was sent to the board members a couple of times when we sent out the meeting reminder. Board members, you've had a chance to look that over. Do you have any comments, questions? I know, Carol, you were not here at the meeting, but Ben and Jose, you were here, so I don't know if you saw anything that you needed.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
It's been moved that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
And it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Minutes are approved as presented. Item 4, citizen comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card and submit it to the chairperson or designee no later than 5:45 and identify themselves at the microphone. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Should there be more than 3 people who wish to speak on a particular issue, they need to select not more than 3 representatives to speak for them, and the presiding officer may limit the public comments further in an interest of an orderly meeting. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to the city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Next, we received no cards for public comment or citizens to be heard. So item number 5 is a discussion with possible action to award the contract for services with Able City, the sole proposal for consultant services to the downtown tours. So as a bit of background, I'll begin by adding a little bit of background to this. We went out to bid 3 times for the project that was presented. We received, working with the city of Laredo's purchasing department, worked with their list of contacts and received nobody submitted a proposal the first round. No one submitted a proposal the second round. It was decided to go ahead and has everybody signed in? Even if you're not a board member, you're a guest. We'd like people to sign in. Thank you. The third round, we decided to try it one more time and let out a bid. Again, the city was utilizing all of its contacts, and a couple of board members also made the effort to do some outreach and to community people who might be interested. And so on the third round, we did have an application. The application came in from Able City, which, hello, let the record note that Patty Goldberg has joined the meeting.
packet right there in the middle.
This one?
Yes.
So Betty, all we're doing is we're going over the history of selection of the packet, okay? Of the proposal, excuse me. So the third round, we did receive a submittal from Able City. They met with us to make a general presentation. The packet was a very thorough packet in which they described the project, their vision, their ideas, how they would work on the project. Subcommittees, a subcommittee of the TERS was formed to review the application and ask questions and to flesh out a little bit more the proposal. And what Able City was able to do. There's a good reason you have Able in your in your name. What Able City was very ably capable of doing was putting together a list of what they saw as functions so that we had an idea of what the various projects and tasks would be, the fees associated with those tasks and fees. The board members all saw this information because it was shared with all the board members. In addition to the subcommittee met with the Able City in order to be able to ask questions and give direction and get feedback. In very general terms, the proposed fee structure for Able City was in two parts, an administrative part and in a project development portion. The project development is a little more self-explanatory because I think we know what we're looking to do in the downtown area, how we're looking to do the streetscape as a result of a couple of the walking tours we did and the sessions we had here with city departments. The utilities, a couple of the utilities that came to describe the downtown area. All of this was used to put together the proposal and to ask questions also of Able City so that they could help with their proposal. Another component, in addition to the project development part of Able City's proposal, was the administrative side. We reviewed the administrative side amongst ourselves, and we asked the city also to review it, actually the entire packet, to be reviewed. And Arturo Garcia, I believe, presented the packet to, and I'm going to say the department incorrectly, but the engineering department or the public works department, people who have worked with projects like this, to review it to make sure that this was consistent with what the city works with in terms of packets that are received. He received a thumbs up, he told us. I know that he was also going to review this with a couple of other departments within the city, and one of the departments was legal and probably the city manager's office. And I don't say probably, I now know, yes, the city manager's office, because I was speaking to the city manager's office. And the one comment that came back as it related to the proposal from Able City from the legal department is that there are some of the duties and responsibilities that we thought might be handled by the by Able City under administrative costs that the city believes that should, they can handle themselves. Such as, for example, the drafting of the putting together the minutes of the meeting, the agendas, public posting, basically the work that we've heard occur here at the meetings. I will be very direct and clear. I spoke to the city manager and explained that one of the reasons this had been put out in part of the administrative portion for the Able City to work on was that we realize the city is a busy entity and the city has a lot on its plate and projects that it works on. And it was the opinion of, my opinion, based on comments I've heard from other board members as well, so you correct me if I'm wrong, that the consistency in terms of putting together the packets and who we invited to the meetings was not consistent. And so we needed a little more consistency on the outreach, who the emails were sent to in terms of announcements for this meeting. As you recall, and there's some board members that were here for a number of projects, we used to have quite a few people that would come into the meeting. We'd add their name to an invitation list, and then they would appear, they'd start coming to the meetings. And that list was growing, and we had some nice participation. But when there was turnover in staffing of the project, we'd lose some of those members, some of those names on those lists. So the city manager was, the co-city manager was explaining that we needed to work a little bit closer so that we could be more consistent in that. But there are some points in the administrative side of the Able City application that the city believes they could be working on, which I think is fair. What I think I'd like to do is sit down with them and talk to the city to see which points we're talking about that the city would be working with and which points are not. The discussion was more on the administrative side, not on the project development side. Okay. Are there any questions based on the description I've just given and also on my summary of the past? Have I left anything out of our meetings, descriptions of what I've said? Because I want us to have a history, an overall history of what we've been doing so far.
Okay, so does that mean, so we're really not going to take action on this, it's just more discussion, so because we need to get back to determine which general administrative items that the city wants to take over and not necessarily include in this proposal, is that correct?
I have a question of Able City right now, based on your comment there, because that came to my mind as well. And so, as I see this Able City, Frank and Viviana, thank you for being here, first of all. I see this as a menu of sorts. You did a very good job of doing this as a menu that can be reviewed. And obviously, the fact that there was a red flag that came up on some of the responsibilities that we were asking you to do goes to show that you were very thorough and detailed on, we can work on this, we'll work on this, we'll do this, we'll charge for this, and we charge this much. So being that it's in a menu format, it means we can eliminate an item and say X, Y, or Z is not going to be done. And maybe I'll let you comment on that.
Okay, I'll let that, this is the contract or the proposal. It says, the proposal outlines the services we can provide based on the needs of the TERS organization and the direction of the board. So it's proposed fee formats and fee depending on the type of service and the length of service period. So it's basically what we get direction from you, which could be you and the, I mean, obviously it's you and the city or you, whomever, and we do the things that we do. However, one of the things that we will do after we get direction is put it, especially when it concerns a city or another public entity, because it might eventually concern LLC or the county or whatever other public entity or private entity, they'd be what would fall upon us to do a memorandum of agreement that memorializes what the city's going to do or what other entity is going to do, and you go forward, and whatever they do, and that's not part of this contract. So that will allow you to move forward in however there is help that can come along, because there might be help that that comes along from other places.
Right.
And we did, like you said, and we vetted this with you all, we went through the procedure and we did really delineate and we did, by increment and by, hours, we know what it's going to take. It doesn't mean you have to use it. It's
Right.
really up to you all. And we always said that we're here to assist you. I mean, we're all kind of in this together to move the tours forward. And we're going to learn what's working and what isn't working. And that's why I think we went to the degree of the detail that we did.
Right, and the
So-
point is not to, if the city or whomever else comes on board and there's a way of them taking on
Yeah.
the work
And
after we've helped them, then we
Step back.
we
step back.
And that's
Because we
very,
see that.
and that's
our-
very clear also in the proposal. Actually, that's very clear at the end of the proposal for the administrative side. You actually have a paragraph that says, as the city or whatever entity wants to take over certain responsibilities, we will be passing it over. Right, exactly.
We just want to make sure you're set up in the beginning, and then you can.
But some of the stuff, but what we're saying, I guess, is here as well. So some of the stuff, some of the setup meeting may never even start in terms of, let us, I'm going to use an example, a very simple example, but the preparation of, the preparing of the minutes and the agendas and all of that.
If
So
if the city's saying we're going to do that, then that's
Yeah.
that's being done.
That's
It's
done.
not being.
So, but from the TERS side, from your all's responsibilities as a TERS board, there, whatever it is that anybody says they're gonna do, there's a memorandum of agreement, and it gets done. If it doesn't get done, that doesn't, for whatever reason, something falls through the cracks or whatever, that doesn't mean nobody's working on it. That means there's backup for somebody to come in and fill in if there's necessity.
So does
for
that mean we need to have a memorandum of understanding before we do certain tasks? Or,
Well, no. Well, are you done with the question?
well, no, I guess my concern when reviewing this is if you go to the menu, which I agree with Henry was real thorough, is as a TERS board, if we were to kind of hit on a lot of these items, it had a monthly, again, if we did everything, it had a monthly bill of an invoice of over $12,000. Now, obviously, that wouldn't happen every month, but it kind of seems like there's the possibility that it could happen. And I don't know if the board, if we can take on having that risk for to have that billed on a monthly basis.
Right.
So how do we kind of
And that's exactly, I think, what we're talking about. As a board, you decide the direction. We'll be there to assist you, and we'll work with, where you all decide you really want to go. I mean, I understand you're taking it, you're lumping it together, but I don't know if that's, and based especially now that we're hearing that the city does want to, offer more services on the city side.
because
that
I
has to be
guess to
figured out.
the way I was thinking of it is the main thing coming out of it, in my opinion, is the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Mhm.
That is like going to be the lifeblood
Mhm.
that's going to it's going to last beyond my membership or me being on the board. That document is what we need to get right.
Right.
And instead of being like on a month-to-month thing, we have a proposal to put together the CIP plan, like this is what it's going to cost for this plan, and not necessarily a monthly rate.
Well, it's not just, that's what, so the CIP, to to put that plan together, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that need to be considered that I don't have we have the itemized, I mean, there's just
I have it.
I
we
guess I'm
have
just
to
trying to
meet with
envision.
people, we have
I'm just,
to put the CIP together, it requires some discussion and some outreach, and, because that's a plan, to put the CIP, you have to have the plan. And to have the plan, you need to do outreach and, you know, make sure that you're getting the plan correctly. And whoever the players are gonna be, if it's just the
Is this
city,
what
it's
you're
just the
referring to?
city, yes. If it's just the city, it's just the city. But there's a whole,
and Henry, I apologize if this is kind of backtracking on,
No, I mean, we need to discuss this.
so that's all I was trying to figure out, like if we approve how it is currently is right now, I don't know what the board is gonna be invoiced or how it's gonna be invoiced. And
The proposal also doesn't have a total cost. It's just on a month-to-month basis.
Right.
Or it doesn't have a limit or normally when we award a contract, we award a contract for so much, up to this amount. In this case, the proposal doesn't have it. You know, it's only 12,000 per month, which includes,
that's if the,
if what it based
If
on.
we
If we're-
based on
if
what
we-
you
Accepted everything.
well, it's not accept everything. It's
Did we put a request, was this a request for qualification or a request for proposal? I thought it was a request for qualification.
It was.
It was not a request for proposal, because if we left out, and I mean, I agree with you, we have to have an upper limit, and that should come in. But we reviewed, again, with all due respect, the purchasing department reviewed the RFQ. If there should have been a number there, it wasn't.
And that's what we need to agree, that's what we need to negotiate. Once you go out for request for qualifications, you go out and review what the responses, and then you negotiate
Negotiate.
an amount.
So
Very
the,
good. I understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
So, where we're going with this, if I understand this correctly from two of our board members, and I understand where we're going with this. So we have this, we fleshed it out with you in terms of the cost
mhm.
per hour that you're gonna be working on something. So maybe the questions we need now answered are, how long would it take, for example, what is the estimated time it's gonna take to put together the,
the capital improvement plan.
yeah.
Well, that depends on direction from you all in terms of what, are we sticking to Laredo only? Are we sticking to
Yes.
exactly what's in the plan?
Yes, so right now we have to work with what's in the plan. And what the plan has, it's Laredo's the only one in the TERS at this moment. The vision was that LC could join because numbers are in there for LC. The original draft, the original plan of the TERS as presented had a budget that included LC participation, but not county participation, for example, because the county had indicated from the very beginning, and maybe that's why they left it out, that at that time they were not interested. Subsequently, we have met. We visited with the college and the county. Ben brought in the county, I brought in the college, and we just presented the plan as it is. They haven't been invited yet. And I think we did discuss this point. It is just the city at this point. It is just the streetscape. And it is it is the points we discussed with originally, from the outlets to the plaza as our first phase.
Okay, but that's not a 5-year plan, so there is a need to I mean, to do a CIP, it takes a lot
Like,
of
like,
information gathering.
right, the
and
whole,
To
the
the
whole,
figure out
thing.
what the CIP
And
is,
then
yeah.
the CIP is based on projects, and those projects, I think, when we all discussed and we were talking during this whole process, is that they still have to be vetted with the people they're going to affect, what's coming, all those things.
right.
And that takes time, and not knowing where we are in those, that needs a plan to get together and do all of that and see where exactly we're gonna head with these other entities, or if not, or you may say just do this and don't talk to anybody, we just want
Right.
you to come out and do this, and
Would the CIP
that's
capital
different
improvement-
from what we've been
capital
talking about.
improvement plan?
Hmm?
Capital improvement plan?
Mhm.
Those are,
Could that be created irregardless of who's gonna be on board? The
because this has to do with money.
It does, except that we were very clear. I'll point out one thing that we were clear about.
But, so, yeah, it has to do with money, but, like X project will be, like whatever, I mean, we're talking about the east-west street of Zaragoza to the plaza.
Mm-hmm.
We know we need a north-south, I mean, a north and south corridor to this, yeah, area to connect at least one nice
Mm-hmm.
connector, right? East and west, and north and south. Whoever's on board, right? We still need that, right? And so maybe we could have different levels of finish, right? Or details, depending on how much money we have. But we still need something to be done, right? So my question is, because I'm very interested, like you said, the 5-year plan, the CIP, right, would be great, so that at least going forward, something that would outlive us, right, to fix what's happening down here. But how are you telling me that can't be done until we know who the participants are?
No, it can't, that's not what we're saying, and I want to clarify that point. We talked about the city being the only participant in the trust at this time. Able City mentioned bringing in, being able to work with the county and with the college if we needed to bring them in, and that was fine. We said we might be able to do that, but none of that should be dependent on their coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's whatever is on the page right now, and that's the,
We may work to bring them in the future. And the future doesn't mean the distant future.
so my
But-
question is, how do you get a CIP if you don't know where the monies are coming in from?
Because we know we have enough money to cover at least the outlets to the plaza. We know that.
Mhm.
And we know that that's been a priority. In other words, in terms, the council was very clear in saying they want to create a connection. And I think we've been saying this over and over. We want to create a connection between the outlets and the downtown, more of the downtown, so that there's walkability that way and this way. So that's phase one. That's phase one. I mean,
Right.
there's, and for that, based on future revenue that's gonna come in, I think the estimate is about 28 million over the 30-year life of the church or something to that effect.
Right.
That's, it should be enough to cover that, based on estimates that we've been hearing on how much it costs to do
but the capital improvement plan is obviously gonna have that phase one plus additional, like the master plan of the whole entire TERS, correct? Yeah.
It is.
Good.
That's what I'm asking.
I mean,
Are we gonna get
are
that
you,
overall
so are you,
plan?
so is that what, so,
I thought that's what we were talking about.
It sounds, Ben, like you're concerned about this potential monthly cost and also percentage, right? Potential monthly cost, right? But it could, the potential, I mean,
it
the
could be a lot
cost could
less.
be, it could be zero,
Yeah.
right?
More.
It could be zero.
Depending on
if we
what
don't-
you
how
tell
you
us to.
Right, it could be zero if we don't engage our services, correct?
But to
Right,
Ben's,
right, that's right, it could be zero.
Right. Well-
but to Ben's point, it's how much do we estimate it's gonna cost? See, in other words, the planning part and the administrative part could
Well-
could spend it, could spend the money coming in.
Well, that's the
Well,
concern, right?
here we're
Administration.
looking at, based on, you know, on the back, if we look at the, do you have a copy?
Yeah.
So, this is on the planning, project management and planning side of the projects. So this is like, if the projects go out, this is pre-development, planning, and programming of a project that's $8 to $12 million, okay? Maybe, depending on how much TERS money there is to bond, because of the 28 over for the city, and that's, you know, what the size of the project that you can do is based on somewhere between $8 and $12 million. That's what I understand. The
Right,
numbers that you gave us.
that's the number that's been talked about at this point, how much we
Okay.
can leverage
Based
based
on
on
the
how much
money.
it exists right now at this
Okay.
point.
So there's a scale of what that is, okay? Now that over here, this is for work that is going to take partially some and from one side and partially from another, because we're not just doing administrative work here, we're preparing to put all of this stuff together.
Right.
But what, I mean, if your concern is that we're gonna come in and do meeting notes and, like, each
No.
one of these are everything is based on the stuff that we're supposed to be doing to prepare for all of this.
Right, do you have the original that I just handed you?
Yes.
Yeah, so that plan is based on what we met on, and you recall that,
You're right.
right? So we sat down and there was, we talked about the need to provide the organize the meetings. For example, we need to talk about meetings that are needed to be organized with the property owners.
Right. Yeah, so all of those are bullets, either numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4,
Yeah.
correct?
So there are things that you need to imagine and hear, like, in other words, we're doing things that have to do with this, right from the start, that we can do, like, just preparing, if you look at pre-development planning and programming services, there's all those things.
Right. Now, one of the questions we asked you in the meeting, and correct me if I misunderstood, but this, let's say the 8 to 12 billion would have a pre-development and planning and programming of 92 to 138, 92,000 to 138. Some of this was a subset of some of these responsibilities
Right.
and duties, right?
Well, some of them, but this is and one of the things that we kept saying, regardless of who's doing it, it doesn't matter. A lot of this has to get done.
Right.
So we're gonna go and coordinate with council or get council or, you know, because you don't have that, we didn't know that until now. Now you're gonna have council, I'm assuming. Is that what?
Yeah.
The city's
No,
gonna
no,
provide
no,
you
no.
with council?
No, yes, well, the city,
Legal.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I can.
So, but what we would do is make sure all those things that the city is saying, of all this stuff, because you can look at this and many of those in there, they have to get done. So whether the city does it or we do it, as a TERS board, you gotta do it.
Right.
Okay, so if the city's helping doing that, or anybody else comes on board to help on behalf of the city, then they take on the responsibility and they do that.
Right.
And that doesn't get done by us. And there's things here that have to do with what I guess you talked about with the city on this.
Right, but
So there, for instance, the preparing of the 5-year capital improvement plan, we can, you know, which projects come first. When they get on there, there are some vetting that needs to be done that has to do with this part, because we need to make sure, okay, that's the street, so we need to make sure that the workshops and all those things are there with the public and all of those things in the front. It takes some time, and then we don't have to worry about putting items on the agenda or following any of that stuff because the city's doing it. It's not just the council, I'm assuming that what they're doing, I guess maybe you know, is they've got the money in an account.
We have, yeah.
And you're providing all of the
The
accounting
accounting and legal services.
that have to do with this.
Ministers.
Well, you all have to make sure, as a board, that those get done and audited and all the stuff that as a TERS board you have to do. They don't get audited as part of the city, it's a separate audit.
you know, because the trust is set up, it's not a committee.
Right, you're responsible for
Yeah.
these.
It's a board responsible for a report that has to be produced annually to the state of
That's right.
Texas.
That's right. So, I don't know if that's been done.
It's been done. As far as the auditor is concerned, it's been audited.
Yeah.
As part of the city. And you mentioned that it's supposed to be a separate audit, but we will look into that and make sure that we comply with that.
Well,
And I know the report that goes out on an annual basis, and I believe tax assessor collector was the one that helped us with that report, along with Arturo Garcia. And that was filed last year, or this year, or the previous fiscal year.
Right. And it was a very simple report because not much had been done.
Right.
So that one was an easy one to do. The more complicated it will be when we begin actually have activity going on. But I want to go to a point Jose made, and Ben brought up, but Jose drove home with the point on the budgeting. So when I read this, and that's, I guess this is maybe answering Ben and Jose's question, but I want you to correct me if I'm answering it or not. When we read this the first time, and we went to the last page under compensation, and we talked about pre-development planning and programming.
mm-hmm.
So going back to the planning process and the 5-year design and all of this, that's what I thought the pre-development planning and programming and the discussion was about. That this is about how much it's going to cost. So the answer to the question Jose and Ben has is here,
Mm-hmm.
between 92 and 138,000.
To come up with a CIP.
Am I wrong or am I right?
No,
Well,
it would be.
It's
if that is
210,000.
That's
all,
the money that they're gonna be.
Right.
The CIP would be based on that, and
Right.
that we would put that CIP together based on that, with that fee. You know.
Right, but this,
And since we know what can be done with the $8 to $10 million, we know 8 to see. So to be very clearer, or to be a little clearer here, so we know that the 8 to 10 million will, and now I'm just using an example, will cover a 12 block area. Then the CIP is going to be on a 6 to 12 block area. Maybe a little bit beyond that, but not much more beyond that. It's not going to be a plan for 20 to 30 blocks if we're not going to be doing 20 to 30 blocks, because we know that the lifespan of the TERS and the money that comes in won't cover that amount. We should plan for that's going to come in, period, right?
sure. What,
It's not a downtown master plan. It's the TERS. Once again, it's TERS, and it's related to what the TERS can do or can't do with the money we have. So the plan shouldn't go beyond that.
But you said that over the life of the TERS, you can generate $28 million.
It only with the city's contribution, based on the estimate the city put together, and I'm working from memory. I'm gonna have.
Yeah, it's on table one of the project. I think all the members got a copy of the project plan approved by council.
It's 34 million.
It's 34, yeah. It's
Okay.
page
but
number
that,
10.
isn't that include LC?
Right.
No.
So if you were able to bring them into the mix, then
The college was 17.
17 if they came in? No, that's a,
But then these projections are based off of redevelopment, multifamily being built, the second phase of the outlets being built. So that's how they got all these numbers.
That's not what you combine. I mean, 34 million isn't, that's just what's coming in.
What's coming in, right? That's what's coming in, exactly. And we know it comes in. And we know it comes in to the tune of less than $500,000 a year at this point.
at this point, as
As downtown takes off,
it's
it'll
going
get
to accelerate.
and I think this was built on an accelerator.
Okay.
Well, what we did was we tried to put something together that you could, as you said, it's more like a menu, and it's based on getting started, and let's, roll up our sleeves and figure out how we want to proceed.
Right.
And
Agreed.
if that's how we did it.
I like the approach, and I think the board, well, we met, and at one time it was Ben, myself, and Arturo. Another time it was Harold. No? Who was it? It was Arturo. It was a meeting I was not at.
Yeah.
We did one conference, one.
Was it a
yes,
Kirby?
yes, on the-
Okay,
yes.
you, Kirby, and
On the-
Arturo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in San Antonio, we did
Oh,
it.
you run that?
Yeah, we were there.
So we were trying to flesh out the various points of this, and that was the time when we needed to come up with questions. But a very viable question that you asked is the cost of that plan, the CIP, right?
Mhm.
And this is what I thought that was. And Frank, you seem to be confirming that that's what this is in terms of
Well, that's based on the value of
an $8 to $10
money
million.
that you're spending.
Right. So,
But that's everything? I mean,
So, well,
make sure
that's
we're-
based that's based on the amount that could be bonded for what was coming in. That's what we
Yes.
understood.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
So, from the city,
Right.
Oh.
just the city.
just the
Just the
city.
city.
So,
That's correct.
in this, if you go to the first part, right, and this is on the administration part of what we need to, we can go past 1.1 for a second and go to 1.2.
Yes.
The discussion of, okay, the TERS board may project and who's maintaining it? And that's something that is the city going to accept it and say, okay, this is now our responsibility? Or is there some other thing that is going to have to be looked at with the TERS board? Has that been discussed at all with the city?
Well,
The city does have the plan itself also calls on page 10, we have what we call operational expenses. And the city gets 5% of whatever gets collected, any revenues collected. For the TERS, the city gets 5%. That 5% is supposed to be used for the administration of the zone, and it also calls for the operation of the and services of the facility. It's the last bullet point on page number 10.
so operational expenses, I'll go ahead and read it so that we have it right here. Operational expenses, as may be necessary to provide for the proper administration of the zone, operation of the zone facilities and services provided therein over the life of the TERS. So again, this is not beyond, but it's a 30-year life. The city's operational and administrative costs will be calculated as 5% of the total annual zone revenues unless otherwise directed by the city council by a separate resolution.
So that is gonna be the maintenance of the 5 blocks?
Well, no, that's the question that's being asked. So the question so
That's
when
great.
I was speaking to when I was speaking to the city manager, one of the things that city manager mentioned was part of this is administrative part.
Mhm.
The staff that helps with the legal part that gets done, the administrative part about the meetings and things of that nature. What this also sounds to me is that this money is also set aside for maintaining that area. Is that what I'm reading?
That's how I read it, is the operation of some facilities.
Oh, that's great.
That's good.
Take that.
Well, yes.
The other way was too expensive.
It's good. It's good
Well, I
for
mean,
the
I don't-
operational. The thing is, the question is this: what is 5%?
Is that for cleaning and maintaining and keeping up and all of that
So
stuff?
it uses the word operational.
We'll take
So
it. We'll take it.
yeah. No, and the thing is, it works both ways. You know, I don't want to use this. Thank you for pointing that out to us. But we also need to be realistic. If 5%, what is 10% of $450,000 that comes in a year
Mhm.
is $45,000. 5% is $22,000. So $22,000 to maintain and operate. I don't know. From the outlets to the park after the project is finished. I don't know if that's realistic. I don't know what.
Well,
I'm not-
if you look at the last sentence there, it says unless directed by city council.
Right.
Okay.
So council could actually go back and adopt a resolution saying, you know what, I need 10% or 50% of your revenues in order to maintain the project.
I think it should be separated, the maintenance and the administrative.
Well,
It should be two separate things.
and there's also the actual existence of our special district management district for this area that is set up, the TERS is set up to build something, and the management district, which is a separate subdivision of the state, is set up to maintain what's been built. And we've talked before about
That's how other cities do it.
how it's irresponsible to build something that you don't have a sustainable plan to maintain.
True.
Which is going to be, it sounds simple, but it's very important. Security, lighting,
Cleaning it up.
cleaning, extra trash pickup with like all the clubs that are on Iturbide.
And the
So-
city may say, yeah, we're gonna do it, but there should be a memorandum of agreement that memorializes all of that to make sure that all of that.
Well,
is-
that's something that in our discussion, and we need to further discuss this with the city. But this is one of the services, and one of the things that's important. It may sound like it's going to cost money and there's not a result in it, but there is a result in this. When we talk about bringing in the stakeholders, the business owners, to meet on a regular basis for the development of this project, it's not just to plan and design the project, it's to get their buy-in so that they participate in a management district and then are willing to make the transition from having sat through this planning process to saying, yes, I now need to, I need to contribute to a fund that's going to maintain that area. So that's the important part of that's what I saw as key to your description here in terms of bringing together stakeholders. It's not as easy as just saying we're going to have a meeting, you put out an announcement, and if you come, you came, and you didn't. We need participation, and we need someone to actively be bringing these people to the table so that they're there. As an aside, in addition to the management district, we have to remember that we have a couple of city people, or organizations out there, not city people, organizations out there that are interested in putting together a downtown committee. Jose Ceballos asked me to remind us of the fact that he is working with Main Street, with downtown housing, with a couple of people putting together a committee who he wants to make very active member or participant in the tours. So we'll be hearing their comments there.
Jamie, I just
Please.
just wanted to make the point that the difference between the city using the 5% that they're getting from this board zone, and we're deciding as a board, right, how to use those monies, but the difference between the city deciding where the lighting and the benches and what gets cleaned and whatnot, and the actual management district doing it, is that the actual stakeholders will be in the room making the decisions. There's a board that has the authority to make those decisions, and the stakeholders will be in a more direct influence, I guess. They have a more direct influence than they would with the big city bureaucracy, right? And getting the downtown stakeholders and using the organizations that are already in place, it can only be beneficial to the area.
It can only be beneficial, especially if they're contributing to the maintenance. So there's no doubt about it. Okay. So is the answer to Ben and Jose's question the answer that we just described? If we were talking about an $8 to $10 million project to produce the CIP for that project in the zone that would be identified by the board, going to cost,
In the zone that was described in the.
Yeah, I don't know if I kind of derailed it by asking what my question was, but it seems, maybe I'm thinking of this wrong, but I would think that we have a 5-year CIP, and from there, phase 1 would then go to consultants to put together construction plans to execute phase 1 of the CIP. All I'm talking about is just getting the framework to base our future projects off of.
instead of just getting started on the first project.
Right.
And so we could just started, hire the city.
To do the
And get
CIP,
started.
and then from there, we take it to the next step.
But if we don't.
But is that
if we
my
don't-
misunderstanding?
If we don't do the CIP, we already know which project, right? We've already identified which project to get started on. But is that a possibility? Get hired and start the first project and then do the rest of the plan? I know that sounds backwards.
Well, you
but-
want us to prepare the RFQ for people, is that what you want us to do?
Well, I
Is
think,
that
isn't
what
that
this
part
is?
of the,
That's what it was, that was.
But also, it sounds, just, I know it has to be figured out, but it sounds like administratively, you're gonna rely on the city. Based on, I guess, the
I
conversations
still need to talk to the city a bit more.
well, that's a menu, that can be taken out.
Exactly. So we have a menu, and we would decide what on the menu.
You would want to still keep, it's kind of how we started. We
Yes.
listed everything, and you all remember, it was
I
like
just-
you all, city, you all.
Exactly.
So you want to kind of revisit
I
that.
just have to ask this question. So, did anybody helping you ever come up with these points of discussions before
Before you, what? Oh, I'm sorry.
before we presented the menu of work to do?
Let's
I mean, what kept this from starting in the first place? What was the issue that happened? Was it the lack of having somebody, or?
I don't know that I understand.
Well, okay, so how did you,
We
these discussions that we're having right now based on these questions, they never happened before?
yes,
Okay,
we've had that. In fact, that's what led to the project being let out.
okay,
The project was let out because in terms of conceptual design and all this, and I know this predates you on the board, okay? Because the board was asking to see how much the city could provide in terms of planning, putting together the plan for this. And it was clear that this was going to be a challenge. We needed to contract someone to put together the plan so
okay,
that we can move forward with letting out the contracts to work on this.
okay,
But what is in the plan is decided by the board, and we do know already our first part of the plan, as we've described to you several times. I know this is not news. I'm just saying for the sake of saying this, we knew that the first step is outlets
okay,
to plaza.
okay,
We talked about a touch-up, whatever word you want to use,
okay,
to Iturbide Street, because Iturbide Street is now becoming very used. It needs better lighting, it needs a security plan, et cetera, And then one other comment that came up, and I know this again we discussed, then we talked about a north-south connection, so that people or so that traffic also could walk not only from east to west on Iturbide and Zaragoza, but we would identify a street that went north to south to kind of connect. And those were the three. And when we counted blocks, and again, this is how simple it was. It was as simple as counting blocks. I recall we talked about 5 blocks here, 4 blocks here, 5 blocks up. We did the math, and we said,
that's it?
that's $10 million.
Yeah.
So can we say that, that really what we're talking about is number one, and we're gonna take out financial analysis and execution and general administration, because that's gonna be done by the city?
I think that's too broad. That's too broad out at this point. What I'd like to do is review the menu where you have the greater detail, because we work from a menu, and then again, and I this is not a finger pointing deal. It was not only the private sector, it was the city was at the table looking at this menu saying yes and no to what you would be working on and not be working on. That's why we have checks here,
Mhm.
because, but it's being reviewed again.
Okay,
And so you made it easy for us by putting this in menu format
Mhm.
so that we can sit with the city and review it one more time. Where the city would say, you know what, no, this is something we could be doing, we could be doing. And that's fine too.
okay.
That works for us as well.
Okay.
But because you have it, okay, but let's go. Here. That's it. Sorry.
Okay.
Isn't, even if we approve this today and say, get started, right? If we do that, we still gonna, as a board, agree to which part of the menu we check.
Yeah.
And say, go ahead, so
Right.
even if there's stuff on there that we're not gonna use today, we could approve this and move forward, get started, and work that out.
I would say yes, we could as a board, and just given the way the TERS board is set up, and it can approve what it wants at the time it wants. I'm not comfortable. I'd like to task a board member, Jose, with getting back to the manager's office to describe the meeting and what we discussed.
So
bec-
we're gonna, it's
Yes,
September, so we're gonna wait again.
Yes,
We're
and,
gonna come
and
back
I'm
in
sorry,
October.
and I'll take that on myself, because I know 2 months ago I said we wanted action by this date, and I thought we had gotten all the feedback we were gonna get, but I didn't get the feedback until just very recently. And I think the feedback is important, and I wanna do this right, because we need buy-in from all concerned. It's, if we talk about buy-in from the downtown stakeholders to the property owners, that's gonna be a task in itself. The last thing we don't want is we want to make sure we're all on the same page when we're moving forward. And so, any meeting that maybe you would like to organize with whomever we need in the city, I'd like to join. But just to make sure that we review this, and if you don't have this, we'll get this to you. And we'll show you how we checked it off and what we checked off and what was tasked the city, what the city said we'll continue doing, what we won't do, so that we can look at this again. And it's pretty detailed on administration and on project management. But we'll get you a clean sheet of this.
I heard what you said, and I wish we were taking more action, because all of that could happen after the approval, correct? Because just because that's on there doesn't mean we're going to use it. If it's a menu type format, yes, 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 and no, 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 after the hiring,
Right.
right?
I understand what you're saying. I'm not comfortable. I'm just not comfortable at this point. And my comfort level needs to be at a point where, I've already made this commitment one time. I'll make it again. I'm committing to meet with the city between now and the next meeting, so that we can give this. We could give it the okay now because it's in menu format, and we could say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But let me sit down one more time to review the list. And then if you're committing, Jose, and I'll commit to that subcommittee meeting to do this, the legwork on this, then we'll come back and we'll have a better, I will feel on a better platform to move forward and say, let's move forward with this agreement. I'm going to say something also that I think is important to say to Able City. The discussion here is an internal discussion, and we're able to have it again. We can have this conversation because of the detail you put into your description and your proposal. I mean, if it had been a little blurrier, it could have gone either way. It could have been said, well, this is too vague, not enough information. Instead, it went the other way. It was so detailed that your questions on who's going to do what. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I think it speaks well to it speaks well to the proposal. It speaks well to the detail in the proposal. Again, you met with us 3 times to go through this detail, and I want to acknowledge that for the record. It's not as if we hadn't been meeting all this time to come up with this detail. But we need one more. We need one more subcommittee meeting. Does that work?
Up to you all.
Well, I shouldn't be looking at you. I'm going to ask the board's indulgence on this. Patty? Right. Okay. Ben?
Yes.
Carol? Thank you. Okay, so then we have our tasks set before us for the homework that we'll be working on. And I'll talk to you about a schedule a little later. Okay, very good. Any other comments?
Someone?
Good.
So quiet.
Yeah, generally the meetings are very relaxed, and we take, when we have had participants sitting, visitors from the public sitting on, they raise their hand and they make comments. So, I mean, any comments or any observations are welcome. It's better that they be said now and not after the meeting, and then we hear about them later. So, Arturo, so what we've done so far, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll cut to the chase.
Okay.
Given a conversation yesterday with the city manager's office, what I want to do is I want to go over the very detailed list that Able City put together about what they would work on as a consultant, administratively, on the administrative side. Just to review, because the city feels that it can do some of that stuff. I want to sit down and just go through that list one more time. I also want to be able to go to the city and answer the very important question that Jose and Ben had in terms of the conceptual plan and project that's going to be put together, be it for the 4-block, 5-block, 4-block area that we're talking about. We have a budget that ranges from 92
to 138.
Yes. And bless you. And so that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to take action today. I committed to take action next month, but we're going to come back and meet one more time.
Okay.
As a subcommittee with the manager's office. Again, any comments from anybody else? Okay. Very good. Then, next item on the agenda, item 6 is staff report related to the downtown church revenues transferred to the city as per the project finance and use plan for the operational and related administrative zone costs. And I believe you're going to help us.
Yeah, on the amount that we have transferred so far, the church have been collecting revenues for the last few years. So far, based on what I pointed out earlier, the 5% that the city is supposed to be getting, the 5% of that, it's $30,050 that has been transferred.
30 for the both years?
For both years.
15,000 per year?
About $15,000 per year.
I'm sorry, 30,000 how much?
$30,050
Okay.
as of last month. So we only have September, and there's no really basic basically what we have right now, funds that are available in the TERS is $487,000. That's how much money has been collected over the last few years. And we have delinquency tax receivables of $4,370. It's not much.
So 587 is even less than was projected in the projection sheet for the plan, right?
Yes, we're supposed to have 855.
I mean, we collect, the city has collected
Right.
100% of,
No,
of whatever was assessed.
Right.
It's the assessment that has not.
and it is what it is. We're not.
Well, it depends if you go to year 4 or year 3. Like year 1 and 2 is 0. Year 3, 2019 is 434.
So the 587 is for which tax year?
It's a total.
It's a total, right? It's a 587, but up to when? Collection for taxes is up to 2019 through 2019.
2018, I guess. Or
So, see here it shows.
Fiscal year 18?
So but we're in 2019, so we're not talking about 20, because at 2019, this is what we're supposed to have.
We have 500.
And so we have 500, we have more than it says.
So the 500 is after 2018?
It includes whatever was collected in fiscal year 2018 and 2019.
Oh, and 2019.
That's a first.
Yeah.
So at this point, in 2019, we should have 434 and we have 587. And according to the schedule, and again, it's a projection, we will be adding another 400,000 in 2020.
Right, but that just doesn't look
That,
like we're
that,
gonna
that
meet
was a
our
projection, yeah, and we should be able to get some numbers as far as what the projected tax levy is gonna be for 2020, within the next couple of weeks.
Because you can get the 2018 numbers to,
Yeah.
and the 2019 numbers to look at on an annual basis.
Yeah, let us assume we did collect, 'cause this chart shows nothing for 2018, but if this is for 2 years, as you're pointing out, and we were to divide this by half, approximately 300,000, it's 150,000 a year instead of 400,000.
Right.
So this will go up by another 150,000.
For the current year, for 2019, the city has collected 337,000 for this year. The levy was 335,000
For this year alone?
for 2019 alone.
For 2019 alone is how much?
337,000.
Okay, this tells us how
Right.
much.
So
It's,
The difference, 200 and something, was for 2018.
so instead of the 445 that I was thinking more or less per year, it's gonna be about
It was 335.
330 per year.
And that's without the college.
That's without the college
The city.
or the county. This is just us chickens at this point.
And the amount, where's the amount that was scheduled?
So if you go to page 16, no. I mean, the meetings have been very fluid, so I mean, we need to, we're inclusive here. So if you look at chart at page 16,
Right.
if you go to the column, the fourth column that says city on it, 2019, it has 434 by that point that would have been collected. We have 587, but as Jose pointed out, 335 was we've been collecting for 2 years, although this is not projected any money in 2018.
But you did.
We did. So the 434 really is 330.
330.
335.
335.
Get the values up.
And as the values go up downtown, right, this goes up. But it gives you an idea for the budget we're working with.
Sure. Understood.
So we need to be, and would it be better if the county and the city and the college came into it? There's no doubt about about it. But at this point, that's not what we're planning around because the city charged us with working this project as if they were, the TERS is the cities. You know, in other words, the county might come in, the college might come in, but if it doesn't come in,
Stay with what we
this
got.
is what we have.
Okay.
Okay, that was the item 6, the report from city staff on how much has come in. I'll recap, just to reconfirm. Jose was telling us that 30,050 came in over a 2-year period, so that's approximately 15,000 per year that was used, that the city has for operational and administrative costs. Per year, yeah. Are there any questions about item 6? Sensing none, we have no announcements to make, except I'd like to make one, and that's the date and the time of the next meeting, so that we have that correct. The next meeting will be, today's September 10th, right? October 8th at 2:30. And tentatively at City Hall, because that's where the meetings are projected to be at. Unless you receive the notice that's telling you it's going to be here, then it's not here.
It's the alternate location.
This is the alternate location. But mark your calendars for October 8th at 2:30.
Yeah, Arturo sent out invites.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there's already for the whole calendar. It's on my calendar.
Yeah.
Somebody decides to send one also.
No. Thank you, Arturo, for pointing that out. No, we may not.
You can't send anything else.
Okay.
Never again.
The next item is adjournment. I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay.